When building a raised garden bed, the size of the bed and the type of materials you use is really up to you. But for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show how to build a raised garden bed using red cedar decking. Cedar is naturally water resistant without being pressure treated. If you're not using cedar and concerned that the wood might rot or decay from being in contact with soil or water, you can always add a plastic liner to the interior of the bed to slow down that process. For this project, I wanted the garden bed to be 12 inches tall, so I decided to use two 2x6 pieces for the sides and 2x4s for stakes and to finish the top edge. Because my raised garden bed is going to be 12 inches high, I want to have some stakes that are going to extend into the ground and provide support. So I cut those stakes at 18 inches, and I found that cutting the stakes to a point, as you can see here in the video, really helps to make sure that it's easy to drive those stakes into the ground when I'm installing the bed. Additionally, I use red cedar 4x4 timber, and I cut those at 18 inches as well and use those for all of the corner posts. I prefer to use exterior coated decking screws, but you could also use lag bolts or other hardware options that are rated for exterior use. I always advise drilling pilot holes prior to installing screws to prevent any wood splitting near the edges. I find it very helpful to have a lot of these clamps available. I tend to use about 8 to 10 at a time when I'm doing each side of the garden bed. Here I'm using the clamps to secure two 2x6 pieces together to give me that edge, and this is the short end of the bed, so this is one of the 4-foot sections. I found that having one stake at the end of each of the shorter ends of the beds is more than sufficient and provides enough support for the bed. As you can see here, I've got all of my stakes attached to the sides. This gives me an opportunity to test fit all of the pieces and make sure that they're square and that everything aligns well together. Once I know that the bed is square and level, I'll drill holes at the end of each piece of wood. Doing this will help me make sure that when I attach the screws, I can hopefully avoid any splitting. Because I want the corners to be strong and have a lot of support, I used the 3.5-inch exterior coated deck screws for this application. Once the corners are secured, then I add the corner posts, and I check one more time to make sure the bed is level before transferring it to its destination. This is a great opportunity to place the bed in the location you prefer and make any markings for the boundaries so that you know where to start digging with your shovel and either remove the grass from this location or consider putting down a landscape fabric or cardboard to reduce weed pressure and help plants root more effectively. Once all 4 sides of the garden bed come in contact with the soil, I know that the garden bed is level. I'll then begin to add compost. One modification I like to make is to add these 1/2-inch pipe clamps to each of the interior stakes. I add one below the soil surface that you can't see here, and in corners where I don't have stakes located, I measure 1.5 inches off the edge of the raised garden bed to ensure that the pipe clamps are located at equal distance away from the edge so I can add rebar and PVC later on for season extension. Installing rebar at the corners and at each stake provides an excellent foundation for adding PVC or some other type of piping to create a low tunnel. This raised garden bed was used for a classroom demonstration, but you can see how the PVC can be attached to the rebar, and we later added plastic to complete the demonstration. Now that my rebar has been installed, I can go ahead and finish adding all of my compost, and I can finish the top edge by adding some 2x4s. Then I can add my seeds and my transplants. Thank you for watching this demonstration video on building a raised garden bed. I hope you found it helpful and informative. Please feel free to reach out and contact me if you have any questions, or reach out to your local extension office. And to learn more about workshops and events happening throughout Indiana and in your community, please visit us online at extension.purdue.edu and on social media.